Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of From the Ground Up. Real-time issues and real-time solutions for MWBE businesses, sponsored by Queen Strategy Partners, Nicole Valentine, Esquire, Danielle Douglas, and myself, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. We're so excited that you've been tuning in to our show every single week, getting the information that you need to not only survive what we're experiencing now, but to thrive post this new reality that we're all figuring out. And we're excited to hear some of the stories, some of the messages that you have shared with us that have been impactful in you really using this real-time information so that you can grow and expand your business. Because ultimately, we need all of our MWBEs and small businesses to be successful, because we're the ones that are going to employ those who are struggling right now, create new strategies, and implement the way forward and what we need to do in this environment. So I'm just excited to be able to have this opportunity to share with you every single Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with my beautiful co-host, because we do this together for our passion and our desire to create impact in our communities. And we are the model for collaboration. That's what Queen Strategy Partners is all about. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce the beautiful and dynamic Danielle Douglas.
Oh, you know what, Stacey? You're always good for my soul. You're so sweet. Oh my gosh, you just feed my ego too. So I appreciate that. But with that said, Stacey and I are so excited. And again, I know I say that every Tuesday, how excited we are to bring you two great guests. Our topic this morning is protecting you and your business during COVID-19. You know, COVID-19 came without a warning, and it has really impacted us on a personal and professional level in every aspect of our lives. And so some of the things that we have taken for granted, for instance, if we'll still be with our loved ones. I'm sure that for each of you, you have been impacted in a personal way with COVID-19. God forbid if you have had a family member, a close, immediate family member, or a family friend who has died as a result of COVID-19. And with that said, Stacey and I have really thought about how can we not only have you survive during this time, and we talked about PPP and things like that. Again, we want you to thrive as well. And so these last couple of sessions have been about building a foundation to pivot from, to propel you forward. And that's why we thought this was a very important topic, to make sure that you have all the pieces together and that you are in a position to protect you moving forward in your business, God forbid, during this time or in the future if something like this happens again. So with that said, again, our topic is protecting you and your business. And we have two great guests with us this morning. The first guest is Danielle Brown. And I say that lovingly because we share the same name. So Danielle Brown, Esquire, is a New York licensed attorney and founder of the Brown Firm. She is passionate about entrepreneurship and helping people build and sustain generational wealth. Danielle focuses her practice on estate planning, business law, and entertainment law. The firm's mission is to empower and educate people on protecting their assets and preserving their legacy to touch hundreds of families. As a business owner and a former WNBA team executive, Danielle understands the legal, business, and financial challenges that businesses of any size or experience level face. And she also understands the importance of preparing for the future. In 2015, Danielle co-founded Do Strategy Group, a business marketing and graphic design consulting agency where she assisted small businesses with formation, branding, and development for marketing plans and strategies. In this capacity, Danielle helped a variety of clients that included startups, mom and pop shops, Fortune 500 corporations, entertainers, and television personalities. Danielle joined the WNBA Atlanta Dream staff in 2014 as the head of the business operations department, and she quickly became a member of the senior management team and began serving as the team's general counsel. In this position, Danielle negotiated and drafted cost-effective contracts, agreements, licenses, and successfully managed enforced relationships. She added a legal perspective to all business operations and effectively communicated legal principles to non-legal personnel. Because of all of this, Danielle was recognized as a 2015 Future Leader by the president of the WNBA. So without further ado, we introduce you to Danielle Brown Esquire.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I feel like we ran out of time with that bio there.
Well, we want to make sure they know that we have an expert on the panel, and we're just proud to celebrate. I mean, Black Girl Magic. Like, I'm not ashamed about it. So we, of course, don't discriminate for anybody, but we're going to celebrate our own and let folks know what you're doing. And the two, Danielle, I feel like we have Danielle double power today with both of you on. And now I get to introduce our second guest, who is a dear friend and sister of mine, but she's also the CEO of Lindley Consulting Group, LLC. It's a transformative company. And as a thought leader, trainer, coach, and author, she has over 25 years in the finance industry. I don't know how, since she only looks like she's 25 years old. She is an alumnus of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. She's a certified MWBE, and her mission is to transform the lives of individuals, organizations, and communities. She's the author of many publications and curricula, such as Achieve Financial Victory, 7 Ways to Win with Your Money, Realizing the American Dream, Life Balance for the Woman on the Rise, Financial Coaching, Helping Clients Reach Their Goals, and Delivering Effective Financial Education for today's consumer. She's also the financial contributor of Women of More magazine and a blogger on Medium. She's nationally recognized. She's worked with Fortune 500 companies, municipalities, universities, small businesses, including Citi, Chase, the state of New York, Columbia, St. John's University, FDIC, National Urban League. I mean, I would be here all morning if I listed all of them. And she is an award recipient of the All-Star Agent, Entrepreneur and Community Leader of the Year, and most recently, Women of Wall Street 2019. You can just follow her anywhere there's social media. She is not just talking about it, she's doing it. She just recently launched in COVID-19, the economic resurrection. She's not playing up in these streets. So I'm so excited that we have both of these experts today to talk about protecting you and your business. This is serious talk. We don't have these conversations enough. COVID, as Danielle Douglas said earlier, came in like a storm. Nobody was expecting it. And a lot of people are in situations that they didn't plan to be in, and they didn't have the proper protections in place when COVID hit. So unfortunately, there's a lot of backpedaling. There's for those who can, and for some people, they were just exposed. As my grandfather would say, you know, you got caught with your skirt down or up, or something happened that wasn't right. So Danielle Douglas is going to kick us off with our first round of questions so we can dive into this topic and really share this broadcast. If you never shared this from the ground up before, today is the day to share it, because what we're dealing with right now is crucial to making sure that you're protecting your hard work, your assets, and yourself. So over to you, Danielle Douglas.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Danielle Brown. We're going to start off with you. And so, Danielle, how do you think businesses should really evaluate their assets, and what assets can be protected?
Well, when you're looking at the evaluation of your assets, you want to look at your balance sheet. You want to see what you're bringing in. You want to connect with a CPA who can give you an appropriate evaluation of some of these assets. And really, all of your assets can be protected, right? So for a lot of my clients, our first line of defense is insurance. We make sure that we get insurance for whatever insurance we can get. So I'm talking about professional liability insurance, or if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or something like that, definitely some professional liability insurance. You definitely want property insurance. If you have brick and mortar or place. Workers' compensation insurance is helpful. Also, if you have a home-based business, you want to get insurance for your home-based business, or if you're selling products, you want to get product liability insurance, vehicle insurance, right? So these are all types of insurance, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth, but you would just want to make sure you secure these types of insurance so that you're protecting all of these assets.
I just want to jump in for a minute because you went through all of those insurances real quick, Danielle. We want to slow it down a little bit and just tell people, because some folks might not realize that you can get insurance for a home-based business. They feel if they're not a brick and mortar, there's no option for them. And I know that Vanessa Limley gonna jump in on this one for sure. But Danielle Brown, I want to get your perspective on who should they go to? Who offers that? Let's make sure that MWBEs realize that there are a lot of professional services that are certified, but they're not in a brick and mortar like some of the other entities that get certified as an MWBE.
Yeah, so you really have to search for different carriers. So not every carrier has home-based insurance, but the benefit of having home-based insurance, so you have to do like your Google searches, check with local insurance groups. But like you said, many people don't realize because they're in their homes that they can get insurance. And unfortunately, homeowners policy. So many people have homeowners insurance, right? But don't have, or renters insurance. But these policies don't cover your home-based business. So you want to make sure that you're inquiring with your local insurance brokers to see what type of policies they're offering. And if you're operating in your home, making sure that you're acquiring that additional insurance to cover your equipment and your inventory in the event that there's a problem.
Awesome. And Vanessa, I know you're chomping at the bit. I can go there like playing double dutch. Tag me in.
Yeah, you see, Danielle is awesome. She has covered a lot in a small time, but I want people to I want to go back to think about what your assets are, because as Danielle said, there are multiple ways to protect your property as a business owner, but you have tangible assets, intangible assets, and then intellectual assets. And so you may protect them differently. So tangible assets are like, your goods and services. If you have a commercial property or vehicles, like Danielle said, then there's also the intangible stuff like your client base, or your intellectual assets like your trademarks, which I know we'll get into a little bit more. So each type of insurance and legal protections would matter. So having your property, properly protected through legal assets, which I'll tag back to Danielle on that. But when we think about the types of insurance for your tangible assets, like a home-based business, you want to make sure you are specifically asking your homeowner's insurance company if they have it. I personally go through a company called HISCOS, H-I-S. I have to put in HISCOS, I'll put it on there, but there are others where they take you through a database and you can search for the type of home-based business that you have, because depending on what you're doing for your home, you may need multiple types of insurance. So Danielle hit on general liability, depending on if you're giving advice, if you're consulting, some financial aspects like experts like myself, we can't even get certain types of insurance because of the liability that might be involved. So you really want to speak to an insurance agent. You can start with your own homeowner's agent. If you're a renter, same thing. It doesn't matter whether you own your home or not. You want to look at how you protect your tangible assets, but also your intangible assets as a business owner, and as well as your intellectual property, because that is an asset.
All right.
And so I just want to build on that because it's very important. Some MWBEs may already know this because they may have already received contracts from, a government agency, but oftentimes they will request that you have insurance. They will expect you to have general liability insurance, professional liability insurance. And if you are a subcontractor, that's going to be required as well, even as a subcontractor. And the prime contractor will ask to be put as an additional insured on that, on your policy for general liability and potentially professional liability. So be prepared for that. Some of you may already know that because you've experienced it, but for those of you who have not and you are looking to get a contract, be prepared that that is a requirement that you will need.
Okay. Also, even as a speaker, I've had to have that to go speak at a conference. Sometimes, you have to put them on as an additional insured.
All right. So just to piggyback off of what Vanessa said, she talked about your tangible assets, and I really went through some of the insurances that cover that, but also the intangible aspects that I didn't cover, right? So some of your intellectual property, your copyrights, your trademarks, your trade secrets. So your copyrights are protecting any creative works, right? So you want to make sure you're registering your copyrights. And I'm saying creative works, it can be a curriculum that you're creating, it could be a course that you're creating, right? These are things that you can protect with copyright registration. So people don't know that copyright is the rights and copyrights are formed automatically once you put them in some tangible medium. So whether it's a video, it's in writing or something like that, you automatically get copyrights in it. However, registration allows you, like if someone starts to copy your work or use your work, infringe on your work is what we say. If someone is infringing on your work, what happens is if you send them a cease and desist letter telling them, hey, this is mine, don't use it, and they continue to use it, well, now you can go to court and you get what's called statutory damages. In layman's terms, it's a huge sum of money for them using, your work. So you want to make sure you're registering your intellectual property because you have greater remedies to prevent them from using your work, and you have greater recourse if they continue to use it even after you've told them not to use it. And the same is true with trademark registration, right? So trademark registration protects the source of a good. So trademarks identify like, all right, this clothing comes from this particular person, or this product comes from this particular company. So you want to get your trademark registration to make sure that people aren't utilizing and using your goodwill. So you work hard to create all this good product and all these good items. You want to make sure people aren't benefiting off of your hard work.
Absolutely. Look, I'm a witness, honey. I had to have my attorney send out a cease and desist. I'm going after my trademark. I don't play. And I appreciate the fact that people in my tribe, if they see somebody using it, they send me an inbox. I'm like, thank you, boo, because I work hard. And when you work hard, protecting your intellectual property is important. Copywriting, is there somewhere that you want to recommend? I know we all have different places that we can store the copyrights, but I think that registration piece is important for MWBE. So if there's one, we can pull it up on the screen. If you have a recommendation while Danielle Douglas goes into the next question, I can be in the background getting that queued up to show.
So,
well, before we do that, I want to ask Danielle this question to build upon what you just shared with the audience, and that is, a lot of us are creating things on social media, especially now while people are home and they're consuming a lot of information. So for folks like us who are entrepreneurs, who are creating things such as this from the ground up webinar series, how can what is there a level of protection that can take place for content producing information and things like that as we're doing here?
Absolutely. So let's take Queen Strategy Partners, for example, right? So you guys are doing an awesome weekly webinar. You have a logo, right? So there's different levels to your protection. We can protect Queen Strategy Partners as a trademark. Right. And we can say, all right, we want it. So there's 45 international classes, right, that you can register a trademark in. So webinars falls into one. But let's say you also were creating merchandise, clothing to accompany your brand, right? So you'll need to also protect Queen Strategy Partners in that class as well. And it goes on, like if you wanted to create jewelry or something like that, you'll need to protect in each of those classes, because what happens is you own trademark in connection with what you're doing with it, right? So people don't realize that. That's how you end up having two companies like Dove Chocolate or Dove Soap. They're able to coexist because they're in two separate classes. So you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself in every class that you think you're going to operate in. Another thing people don't realize is you see how you have the QSP logo in the upper right-hand corner, or it might be somewhere else for someone else, but that's a different trademark from Queen Strategy Partners, right? So people don't realize. So when you're thinking about trademarks, you want to think about Nike. So you have the Nike swoosh, you have the words Nike, you have Just Do It. Those are all separate trademarks that they have to register for every class that they're working in. So it can be So that's like your first line of defense, to make sure people aren't using your name and acting as if they are doing it. But like you said, for content producing people, like creative folks who want to do photographs, artwork, or anything like that, copyright is more of your avenue, right? So you want to protect yourself from you want to protect that content from being replicated almost exactly. You don't want someone to just change out your logo and reproduce the work that you've given to a client to another client, right? So copyright is really your avenue. We can talk about intellectual property all day.
And we got a couple more questions. And we got a question from the audience, but I'll let you.
Yes. So hey, Roz, thank you so much for being so engaging in our conversation this morning. So she has a question about investment ranges for trademark, but what was shared, that's why I just love this show, because we have so many experts to bring you, and these two women know what they're talking about. The copyright conversation for MW.
Uh-oh.
Okay, just making sure it wasn't me.
No, we can hear each other, Stacey. Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Copyright
versus trademark.
Yes, and we still have Roz's question. So I'm going to jump in. And what Roz's question was really asking both of you if you could discuss the investment ranges for trademarks.
Right.
So when we get Stacey back, we could, we could address that Roz asked.
So if you were to go and apply at the USPTO.gov, right? That's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, where all federal trademarks are registered. If you were to go and apply at by yourself without any assistance, your copyright, your trademark fee can range anywhere from $225 to $275, right? But oftentimes I wouldn't recommend that because the application process is complicated, and about 50 to 70, I believe it's more towards 70% of first-time applicants are rejected, right? And they don't know how to move forward once they receive. It's called an office action, but it's really a correspondence from the USPTO. They don't know how to respond to those office actions, so they end up abandoning the actual application. So I encourage folks to use an attorney, because what an attorney does is first they do a trademark search of your mark to see if anyone has the mark already, right? What people don't realize is you can go to the USPTO site and do a trademark search. And let's say you chose to put in Starbucks with an extra S. Well, if I put that in, I wouldn't find the Starbucks mark, because the search on the USPTO site is very robotic. You have to put in exactly what you want. And in order for you to register, you need to make sure there are no phonetic variations on your word, no words that appear similar in sight, meaning. That's really what causes the likelihood of confusion between marks. So I would encourage you to get an attorney who can do a search for you and then file the application, because they know the nuances and can typically get your mark approved.
Okay. And so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Danielle, but I would think Roz would also know that that's the actual cost, but to engage an attorney, what is the range? Because that's part of the investment as well, that a business owner should really think is reasonable.
Right. So you definitely put me on the spot, but the range is depending on the attorney. So at our firm, we do two separate applications. One is a use-based application, which means I'm using my mark currently. And the other is an intent to use application, which means I have a bona fide intention to use this mark within a period of time. Right. We start our applications at $19.99, and that's $1,999. And the other one is $24.99. But it really varies based on how many classes you want to register in, because that can raise your mark. But you can find attorneys who, are probably a little bit less than us, and you can find attorneys who are higher than us. It really is based on the experience of the attorney and the quality of service that they're providing you.
And Danielle, by no way was I trying to put you on the spot. I just wanted to
no, it's fine.
My question answered, because it's good for the participants to really get an understanding of, like we said, a range, and know There's some flexibility here, but at least they can have a gauge on what they could kind of expect, right? In regards to that. So I'm going to pivot over to Vanessa. Vanessa, I know this is your forte. What kind of financial structures can a business put in place as a contingency in this COVID-19 environment?
Like you said in your opening, COVID hit a lot of us in a lot of different ways. And, one great thing about being a part of this cohort that I'm in, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, I get to engage with businesses around the country. And most people had to react. And now when I tell you the variety of businesses, we have every type of business you could possibly think of. But most people, most of us, and as a financial coach, I say two things you want to focus on: preserving cash and protecting your credit. And so most people reacted that way. Try to figure out how can you keep as much cash as possible. That means you have to do daily cash flow projections, saying, what bills are outstanding, what's coming in, what needs to go out, and try to preserve as much as you can. Call your creditors to protect your credit and say, hey, we're in the middle of a crisis. And, can I get a longer payment window? Call the people who owe you money and try to collect every dollar that you can. So when I advise people in this COVID environment, and still it's going on, and we don't know how long it's going to last, you want to definitely preserve your cash and protect your credit. So if you have cash, keep it, collect all the debts that are outstanding to you, and then create payment plans, like I said, so you can drip out your payments if your creditors have that much space. To be able to take a longer payment window so you can preserve more cash. And then I've been promoting, especially for MWBEs, Black-owned, minority-owned businesses, there are so many grants out there that people are wanting to give away a lot of free money. And so it's a financial plan to keep applying for these grants. Fill out a couple, save the answers. Besides the PPP that was given out from the federal government, a lot of Facebook is giving out grants, loads. You name it. And in my group, the Economic Resurrection, I keep a tab of any small business grants that I could find so people can have access to them. So those are the things I advise people in the COVID environment.
So Vanessa, we had some other guests on about maybe a month ago, and they talked about cash flow, right? So you hit the nail on the head about cash flow is really important, but cash is king. And how do you preserve that cash flow? Now, we know that as it relates to grants or even loans, right? PPP, EIDL loan, a lot of businesses don't want to take loans that they think is unnecessary. But right now, it's cheap money, right? And so some people would say it's a business strategy to take out a loan, even if you don't think you need the money, because it's cheap money and you can have some reserves. So what do you think about that in regards to what you're saying about cash flow? And cash is king, and you need to have, some cash at hand.
Absolutely. If anybody's going to give you a small business loan at this point, that's why I say preserve your credit so that you'll be able to take advantage of these low cost loans. So the loans through the SBA that you got with the PPP and EIDL, the interest rate was less than 3%. You can't get lower than that pretty much. That's almost free money. You don't even have to start paying it till next year. So you're getting pretty much a 0% interest leeway to really build upon your business in the way that you need to during the COVID environment. And then when you look at loans in general, compared to your return on investment. So whatever your business is, you could project your growth to be, 20%. I don't know what your profit margin is, but you always want to look at the interest rate of a loan and deduct it from what your profit margin is. A lot of wealthy people leverage, that's the word I use, loans to grow. So I think some of us, and in my group, the Economic Resurrection, I really talk about our mindset around money. And some of us were told borrowing is bad, but in business, it can be very good. In real estate investing, growing your business, you don't want to be maxed to the margin, but if you can use what we call OPP, other people's money, that's what you do. So if the interest rates are low, your profit margin is wide. So again, if you can get a loan for 3%, but you make 30% profit, you're only taking 3% of that profit to repay that loan, and you're keeping cash available. So I'm all for it.
All right.
Hallelujah.
We got Stacy back. Yay.
You know, I
Yes.
went out to go find y'all some money. And
Amen. We say amen to that. And you see, Stacey, I had to put on my glasses. I'm dating myself. I had to look at I see Roz is like, she's on fire.
Yes.
I have to acknowledge Roz. I can't see without my glasses. I can't reach out to Stacey. So I just want to acknowledge you, Roz. Say, yes, we hear you. And for your encouragement, hashtag don't give up. That's Roz speaking to you, the other, folks that are listening. So we appreciate that. So,
absolutely. But before, because there was so much, I was in the background trying to share out the site. So I hope you all saw the site.
We did. Thank you.
Search. Yeah. But Vanessa, you just dropped like a million nuggets, knock people upside the head, and you trying to move on. Like how we do that in these streets? Tell the people where they should be looking. As Danielle said, we have folks talking about PPP, EDIL, but there's so many other loans that are out there. Grants mean you don't have to pay it back. Vanessa, drop a little bit so I can put it in the chat, my sister.
So I mean, there's so many. Like I said, in my group, I put them out there. There's Hello Alice is another one. I can type them in into the chat. But Facebook has a grant. I mean, someone in my group said they got $2,500 already. Obviously the PPP one, LISC, LISC is another one. They have rounds that open up all the time, and those, the home repairs company has partnered with LISC, LISC, to give out a grant, and they're giving out $20,000, and they keep opening the rounds. So you want to keep finding these opportunities, and once you fill out one grant application, and I did a small webinar on grant applications, you just kind of save your answers in a document that's always available. You can outsource it, because remember, we're all building to be better CEOs of these companies. So we're not going to be doing these all the time, right? So we want to save the answers, work with your person, your admin or whoever, so they can start to fill these out for you. But some of them are so easy, it can take 15 minutes because the questions are the same. You just copy and paste and keep plugging in. And to me, the return on investment is worth it for these free money, right? Free money.
You don't have to pay
free money. Yes, hashtag free money. Yes. Another grant, and I believe it's still open, was Beyonce had actually collaborated with the NAACP. So I think that is still open as well for grant money, just to build upon what Vanessa said. Yeah. So
absolutely, like this is a juicy one, and yes, Roz, that's one of my ride or dies. That's my faith. She's like in it. She's like, we are sharing this out. I think we had Alice that joined and said, thank you, Roz, for sharing. We had Linda join. Thank you, Roz, for sharing. So we appreciate Roz for sharing from the ground up with her community, because this is information that people need. I mean, this is a game changer right here. Listening to Danielle Brown break down what you need to protect. Vanessa telling you about all this free money in these streets. What you complaining about? People are still making money in the middle of COVID. Okay.
And what we always say, you know what? All we ask is that you spend an hour with us and invest the time, and we will continue to invest resources. So imagine how, as you said, Vanessa and Danielle, the leverage effect, right? You take this information and you leverage it. It was well worth the hour of your time. So we will continue to provide you valuable information. So Stacy, with that said, you want to, folks up with another question?
Absolutely, because we're on a roll this morning. I mean, now let's talk about the structures. And I know how Vanessa feels about financial structures, but what can you put in place as a contingency in this COVID-19 environment, right? Because I think that's also a part of being ready. And the preparation is, what contingencies can a business put in place? Like if you don't get the loans, the grants, if you don't have some independently wealthy opportunities, what contingencies do you need to have in place?
Well, I think a couple of things you talked about is the partnerships. People have done two things I've seen in COVID. They have pivoted totally. Even myself, I did a lot of in-person, you all. Now we have to go online. And unfortunately, virtual actually ends up being a little bit, the out-of-pocket costs are cheaper. So people have pivoted, so taking their skill set and put it in a different category based on the conditions of the environment. So we can't get on the plane and go to conferences, but now people have pivoted and use lower cost options to be able to get to their community. So pivoting is one contingency. Two is the partnerships, is what I've seen, to be able to leverage, again, skill set. And I know you've all had a session on joint ventures and building these partnerships where one person may have more intellectual property, somebody may have money or assets. Some people have partnered with, comparable skill sets and pulling their money together to go for these larger contracts. So we're gonna be more communal, hopefully coming out of COVID, realizing that we don't have to do this all alone. We do have a community of people who we can work together, but obviously finding the right partner is important. And I'm sure Danielle Brown could talk about how we set up these joint ventures and partnerships. But those are two contingencies that I've seen and experienced through my customers, through my associates, of how people have pivoted and also partnered. So 2 Ps to be able to survive COVID and really thrive. When I say people are thriving with online businesses, it is phenomenal.
And you know what, Vanessa, you bring up a great point. I definitely want to, dig a little deeper, like how you're saying people are thriving right now with online businesses. But before that's discussed, I just want to kind of build upon what you said about partnership and collaboration. And so I want to really focus this next question to Danielle in regards to, if you are engaged in a collaboration and a partnership, God forbid if something happens to one of the partners, like COVID-19, due to something like COVID-19, or a partner decides to voluntarily leave the company, how do you put some protections in place for that, in regards to partnerships?
Yeah, so what you really want to do anytime you have a partnership with someone, what you want to have in place is a buy-sell agreement, right? So a buy-sell agreement is a legally binding agreement between the business owners, and it clearly stipulates how some significant events, so whether it be a death from COVID-19, whether it be a divorce, or just someone who wants to leave, how it affects the management and control of the business. So a well-drafted agreement will anticipate the intent and the needs of the owners, all right? So as well as providing some conflict resolution. So buy-sell agreement will lay out, when and under what circumstances a business may dispose of an owner's interest. It'll talk about whether the owners of the business have the opportunity to buy the interest from that owner prior to its disposition to or outside party. It might talk about how much you're going to charge. It will talk about how much you will charge for that interest, and whom the remaining owners are willing to accept as a substitute owner, right? So it lays out it anticipates that some event is going to happen, and it lays out what happens when, right? So for example, if you don't have one of these agreements in place, state law governs what happens. And sometimes, depending on your state, it might say, if a business owner leaves, well, you have to dissolve the company. Well, that's no good for anyone, right? We've worked hard to actually build this business up. You might want to pass it on to someone. Other states may say when a business owner passes away, well, what they do is they separate it into 2 separate interests. One is a financial interest and one is more of a management interest. And they end up passing that financial interest onto your estate. So your heirs, your spouse, your kids, or something like that. So all of that financial interest starts going to them. It goes to them. And that might not be what you want. Sometimes they might gain for LLCs. You might have an operating agreement that lays out what happens with someone's interest, right? So you want to make sure you have these documents in place that anticipate this event occurring. No one lives forever. No businesses last forever. Well, some last a long time, but you want to anticipate these things and have these contracts in place so that you can keep the continuity of the business going, and it serves everyone who's involved.
So I just want to jump. Sorry,
Vanessa, I want you to jump in, but I want you, when you jump in, can you also address that based on what Danielle said, when should the partners consider using life insurance as a vehicle to pay assets like the family members for the management purposes. So I don't know if that was going to be part of your answer, but if you can include that in your answer, that would be so appreciated.
I love this synergy. That was my response. Great synergy here. A type of insurance that you can use, but you have to have the legal agreements as well, is the key person insurance,
Right.
or key business insurance, where you use insurance as a form of protection. So if someone, dies while they're still working, it pays those assets off. So you can buy a person out, or buy their family or estate out, or pay estate taxes. But insurance is a tool that many businesses use to cover those type of costs. So it's called key business insurance or key person insurance. There are multiple types of insurance that fall under that, depending on the type of agreement you have, the type of partnership you have. But you can fund these with insurance, and I implore people to, because ownership is very sticky. And even with all of the legal documents that you have, sometimes, depending on the state of the business, when a person dies, it may not be as fluid, meaning they don't have enough cash flow or cash, and most of their assets may be tied up. It is hard to keep the business afloat. So what that insurance does is not only helps continue the business. So if I'm a person where, I'm a key person in the business, where my work and my intellectual contribution keeps the company going, it may take a year to find another person to replace me. The insurance will cover that year to fund the business, or the insurance can pay off the estate that wants to come in to take ownership of the business. So there are multiple ways that insurance can help with these joint ventures and partnerships to keep the business afloat, and/or to help dissolve it if necessary.
All right. And to piggyback off of that, so a lot of my clients use insurance to fund that buy-sell, like Vanessa said, and they usually do it in two ways, right? So, or three ways, really. Either the business owns the life insurance on the business owners, or the individual owners own a policy on every other business owner, right? Or there's a hybrid. So you can say in your contract that you want to give the business owners the option to actually buy out first, so like right of first refusal, or you can say, I want to give the business the opportunity to buy out first. Or you can say, hey, I want to evaluate where the business is at the point of this triggering event, to decide which route we want to go, what would provide the business what would be most beneficial to the business.
Absolutely. So I want to build right on that, because this is juicy. Thank you, Linda. I'm glad you love the platform. I heard that we might need to bring you on as an expert according to what Ron said. So to be continued, but let's go right
Hi, Linda. Hi,
guys. So what business insurance gives you the most ROI? Because I love this conversation. We're talking about the hybrid. Obviously these are questions that, as a partnership, Danielle, Nicole, and myself have had about what works for our business. When is the best time? What's the best ROI when you talk, or is there, for insurance and the kinds of insurance you get? What's going to give you the most bang per se for your buck?
If I start, there's no really best one. It does depend on the type of business you have. So again, some have goods and service. Some have goods. Some have services. Some are, like Danielle said, creatives. You may have actual products. So that depends on the business type, and also the business structure, and also the type of ownership. So there's no one ROI, but you do have to find the one that works best for the business. And so Danielle opened up with the different types of insurances depending on the type of business you have. So professional liability, so that's errors and omissions. So a lot of us who are consultants and coaches and educators and trainers, we have to have this errors and omissions in case we make an error and someone goes off on it, okay, or someone takes the information we have and they make an error, they may blame us. So we want to be able to, because we're good, right? We want to make sure that we are protected in that way. So that may be the best insurance for people who are giving out information and advice. But then if you own literal goods and services, the t-shirt business has blown up all over. You have to protect your t-shirts. Like you said, if you have employees, you need workers' comp. A home-based business, you may have to protect, you may just have a laptop and a mic, and that may be your properties, hard property or assets, but all the intellectual property that's in the computer has to be protected. So we go on,
Roz is hilarious.
There's so many.
And look, Roz, all we can say to that is amen.
I love it. I love it. But this is why Danielle and I get so excited, and we feel like we repeat ourselves every week, because it's truly exciting to bring this kind of brilliance on our platform every Tuesday, focusing on what you can do in real time. Like, nobody needs to project 5 years from now. Right here in this moment, you need to make some money, and you need to be, as I talk about in our Faithpreneur community, cash flow positive. So these are the ways that you can do that, and we're modeling it. Danielle, Nicole, and I are partners for a reason, that we're able to bring our collective gifts and skills together so we can maximize our reach in the marketplace. And From the Ground Up is just one example of how we're leveraging a platform to add value and to bring experts like this. Like, Roz, that's a good one. You need Jesus to continue to counsel you. Oh my goodness. I tell you, we have a few more questions to go. I see that Shawnee is on. Hey, Shawnee, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it as well. Thank you all for sharing this out. TC Cooper, absolutely. TC's going to be on. Don't worry. We're coming up with the next round of guests for the fourth quarter as we are wrapping up what we have in store for third quarter. This is exciting because all of us can grow. None of us are at a place where you stop growing. Oprah doesn't stop growing. She keeps reinventing herself. She keeps figuring out what to do on her own platform and network. So everything starts with where you are. And wherever you are, take this information and make it applicable to real-time solutions. Not something that you have to wait 3-4 years to implement. Vanessa gave us grants right now. Like, there's some she told me about last week that I forgot. I'm like, hold on, after the show, I'm on there like, tip, cut and paste, honey, give me my money. Like, we all need an opportunity to employ other people. So it's not just about your business being profitable and growing. That's great. But the more profitable MWBEs we have, that's the more households we can implement. That's more people we can hire. That's more answers.
Uh-oh, Stacy went out again. All right. So I'm going to give her a second and see if she comes back. Okay. So I'm going to jump back in. And I wanted to really build upon, Vanessa, what you talked about when I did a pivot to Danielle in regards to something you said. So I want to address something because you said something, and I want to have our audience. I want to keep them like lit up. And you said a little nugget about how with social media people are making a ton of money. So I want you to build upon that, because right now a lot of people are at home. They are thinking about ways to pivot, to take their ideas, what we've been talking about, but developing content and being creative and bringing their brilliance to others. So can you talk about that a little more when you mentioned social media and people, making money with social media?
Well, there are plenty of ways. Let me think of the top two. One, a lot of people have done online courses and memberships. So someone like myself who has a coaching business, consulting business, I take my course, which mine is launching in September, and I put it on a platform like Teachable or Kajabi, and people can go online and take my course. And the fees can vary based on that. But I produced this course one time, and people are able to take it without me. So it's also passive income. So you take your content, put it on an online platform, people pay for it, it's passive income. Obviously, it takes marketing, connections in order to get people there. Another thing people are doing in my space and is also creating membership opportunities. So if you want access to all this information that Queen Strategy Partners are providing every Tuesday morning, you join our membership and you pay a monthly fee, and that varies. And I feed this content constantly. And people are making a lot of money through online courses and group memberships. When you have so much content to give, but people want readily access to it, these two platforms are huge. Another one is the drop ship platform. And so people are having products that they never touch, and they're able to sell online through a variety of platforms. Amazon is just one, if you could think of one, but other platforms like Etsy, where people are creating stuff and people are selling it. I had a friend who just basically turned her hobby into a whole stream of income where she paints flower pots. She put a post into one group and she got like 100 orders in like 2 days.
Wow. Wow.
So she's a creative and she wasn't even trying to make money. And this just became her another form of income. But other platforms where, you know, the t-shirt business, I mean, it's blowing up because there are platforms where you can create the design of the t-shirt and another company actually design, you know, takes that design, puts it on a t-shirt and mails it to your customers. So you never have to touch it. And that is blowing up. So thinking about these options that you're doing from your computer, and because of COVID, you don't even have to go to a store or a marketplace and people are buying it. Now, there is work involved to get the word out and build up your marketing, but people are making money left and right. And those are just a couple.
That's fantastic, because although, you know, we're talking about protecting you and your business, but that's a form of protection, right? You need to, as you said, you need to make some cash, because if you're not making cash, then your business is a hobby, right? So she took a hobby and made it a business. We don't want to think we're in business and it's really a hobby, you know?
But I love that, Danielle, as you said, having a multiple streams of income is a form of protection. Having emergency savings is a form of protection. So we talked about how do we protect ourselves with financial structures. It is also figuring out how can we make money without working all the time. And there are multiple ways. And how can we, you know, if we could all be blessed to turn our hobby into an income, that's even greater. But that is a form of protection. Yes.
Right. And then also just to kind of, again, continue to build on what you're talking about, that's with minimal investment, right? So when we talk about the return on investment and the cash that you have to put in to get a significant return on investment, what does that look like?
And so if I have my way, you apply for these grants. And so you get this money and you that's what it's for. If you can get a couple $1,000s, and people got a lot of that PPP grant money, people got anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. You take that money, invest in a platform, and that could be $1,000 or less. It just depends on the platform. Some of them are monthly fee. So you use your money to just, you know, to pay your time, I guess, if you need to have some sort of income. But more than anything, most of those platforms are monthly fees. So you would just use that money as a cushion as you build up your client base, because remember, most businesses will take time to build up. So you use that money to be able to use marketing if you need to do Facebook ads or Instagram ads or any type of ads online. If you need to hire Danielle to protect your assets before you put it out there. So it may only cost a couple $1,000s to get started, either for legal fees, if you want to set it up that way, marketing. But if you can get some grants or those low cost loans, you use that and put in some time, which we have a lot of because most of us are at home, you can really make a lot of money in COVID.
Right.
I think
you wanted to say something, Danielle, as well.
Yeah. So just to piggyback off of that, a good use of the money would also be to hire someone to make sure that your brand is consistent, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that it's not really, sometimes it's not how good your product is or how good your service is, it's how often people see you. So you want to be top of mind, you want to remain consistent so that you can actually bring in the sales, right? So it's the marketing that leads to the revenue. So so sometimes hiring someone in that position is the best thing for you to do.
And that's fantastic what you brought up. And so you may have answered the question already, Danielle, so forgive me if I'm being redundant. But when you talk about brand, I mean, you know, we talked about trademark and things like that. But how does one protect their brand? Is it a legal component to protecting your brand? Or what would you say is some things that business owners can do to protect their brand?
So the top two things, right, would be trademark and copyright. So if we were talking about Vanessa was talking about a t-shirt brand, right? If they're going to be putting out products, you want to make sure you are protecting your logo, protecting your business name, and preventing people from utilizing that goodwill that you've created. For t-shirt companies, it's also that copyright registration. So all of those designs that you put on the t-shirts, well, that's a copyright, right? So if you want to prevent people from utilizing that same design on their t-shirts, you want to register that copyright to prevent them from doing that. Depending on your business, let's say if you have a cookie company, or let's use a famous brand like KFC, right? Their recipe for their chicken is a trade secret. So they do things through contracts to keep that confidential. They have systems in place that keeps that recipe confidential, so it's not exposed to people who shouldn't be exposed to it. So they do what they want, all they can to keep that secret. So that's called a trade secret, and that's achieved through systems and contracts. Another thing is patents, right? So some folks create inventions. Think invention. So if you come up with a new system or a new product, you want to make sure that you're securing a patent for that product or system, so that you have protection and people can't come in and utilize that system that you've created.
Okay. And we have about 4 minutes. So my last question is to you, Danielle. And if you could answer it in like a minute or 2 minutes before we close out, that would be appreciated. Because something that came to my mind also, with return on investment. And folks, for the participants who's here with us this morning, just remember, we hear something great and we'll ask our guest a question organically. So you're getting one of those right now. And that is that a lot of us had to put money into the business, right? We had to fund the money. So when we want to pay ourselves back for the money that we put into the business, is there something that you have to put in place, a documentation or agreement between you, the business owner, and the actual business to say that money, the business will pay you back as a lender to the business? Because we've been talking about return on investment, and that's critically important as well. So if you can answer that in like a minute.
I'm gonna do my best. All right. So with any business, you want to make sure you're keeping accurate books, right? So every time you put money into the business, you want to make sure that you are documenting that in some way. Some people have a payroll system. Some people have an accounting or a bookkeeper, or you're doing it yourself. So you want to make sure you are documenting that. And when you take money out of the business, you want to make sure you're doing that as well. So you can pay yourself in several ways. You can do distributions if you have an LLC, which means that you take money when you think that the business is viable and they can afford to give you money back, and you want to keep a record of that. Or you can also pay yourself a salary, and sometimes paying yourself a salary gives you a tax advantage as well. So for LLCs, some people don't realize you can form an LLC and still file your taxes as an S corp, which means that you get that you don't have to pay that self-employment tax on all of your income. So it's a much more extended process, but you want to make sure you're keeping books and records that reflect what money is going in the business and what money is coming out the business.
So Vanessa, I don't want you to feel left out. You got 30 seconds, something to add?
I just want to say, just keep.
I saw you counting at the bit. I gotta give Vanessa a little bit.
Because for the MWBEs out there, don't give up. Consider multiple streams of income, passive income as we're building on these contracts. There are a lot of money. There's a lot of money out there that's still going to be on the table for contracts. So follow Queen Strategy Partners. They're going to give you everything you need to keep going. I thank you so much for having me on, and I wish you all the best.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm going to close out on behalf of myself, yours truly, my girl, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, and our other partner, Nicole Valentine Esquire. We always say this. We are here for you every week. We continue, and we will continue. Our mission is to continue to provide you real-time solutions for real-time issues. Our goal is not only to see you survive during COVID-19, but also to thrive. And so, as I said at the top of the hour, we are looking to help you build that foundation, because without a solid foundation, you cannot really thrive. And so we are here for you, and we want you to take this information. Remember, these resources that we give you, they're nothing if you don't like take them and utilize them and get a return on investment from these resources. So thank you again. We're looking forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday. As they say in Batman life or Batman universe, the same bat time and the same bat channel. So until then, have a great week.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.